I said to a friend of mine one time, very wealthy individual, like, why do you work? Your lifestyle can't get better. Like, what is it that drives you? And he said, you know, it's not about the money. He said, business is like a game. Money is the way of keeping score. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree. Money is the lifeblood of a business, but you know, building a team, having successful business, competing and winning is a wonderful feeling, and I think that's what motivates great entrepreneurs. It's wonderful to have your first liquidity event, but then you wake up the next morning with the same challenge you had before. What do I do with myself? And I think that's why great entrepreneurs just keep doing what they do. And I think we could use a lot more of them in Canada, because that's the only real wealth that's created is not from government jobs. It's from entrepreneurs starting businesses in every sector. That's why it's such a travesty and a crime to support dead companies. Just like when a fish dies in the ocean, there's a worm that eats the protein at the bottom. When a Chrysler dies, it goes through bankruptcy, and the successful companies that make cars buy the assets, and that's what should have happened. Every time I think about what the government's doing, I think it's so bad for Canada.
Do you think we need more business people in government? Because, I mean, there are a lot of lawyers. I don't want to badmouth the lawyers here, but there are a lot of lawyers in government. Do you think we need more business people?
Yeah, I think so. The trouble is business people want to make money, and you can't make any money in government. I personally have this really, some people say it's a crazy idea, but I see a lot of mediocrity in government, particularly at the provincial and municipal level. And I'm not picking out any single politician, but in my role in television, just like yours, I meet a lot of them, and I see a lot of mediocrity. Here's what I'd like to do. I would like to change the whole model in government, more like the Swiss, the way they run their country. Give the employees of government a piece of the upside that can save us money. I'd like every employee that can save us money to personally keep 15% of every dollar they save us. That way they can enjoy some wealth. They can look around them and say, where's the waste? I would like to pay, and think of it this way. Canada is the biggest business in Canada. So I would like to have the ministers that govern Canada paid a lot more so that we would attract people from the private sector to compete for those jobs. So these politicians that have never worked in business before would compete with ones that had, because they'd be getting, let's say, $10 million a year to run the Ministry of Finance. My goodness, I think we should pay that guy $50 million a year. And imagine the competition you'd have for that job.
What do you think the next big thing in business is? You know how things will come along and they'll hit people, gee, if I just thought of that first. Is there anything that you're thinking about that could be the next big thing?
The next big thing for me is where the growth is. You know, I am, as an investor, looking at our growth, GDP growth in North America slowing. And that's going to be for the rest of our lives, because our middle class has already emerged and we're aging. But I look at China, India, Brazil, Korea, South Korea, countries like Cambodia and Thailand. They have massive middle classes emerging, and they have GDP growth north of 5 and 6 and 7%. That's the next big thing for investing, is to find businesses in those countries and invest in those. We're done here in North America. It's not a bad place, but it's never going to grow at 8% ever again. And yet there are economies. So my new best ideas are all in those markets, not here.
Is it because we've become fat and lazy here? We expect too much and not have to work that hard?
Well, I'll tell you a story. You know, I'm an investor in a company called Stream Global. We provide outsourcing, where we answer phones for companies like Apple Computer, Bell Express View, TELUS, all these companies. We have 31,000 employees. I've got employees in countries like the Honduras and Thailand and Egypt that sleep at their desk in a cot. They work 18 hours a day. They speak 5 languages. They're trained engineers. Do you have a son or a daughter in Canada that's willing to work 18 hours a day? Those economies are the ones where there's hungry entrepreneurs. That's where I want to invest.
And so should people now that have money be trying to instill different values in their children than maybe a lot of them are being instilled with?
Absolutely. It's the greatest challenge is to have, you know, children understand that only hard work is how you're going to be wealthy. Inheriting money is an awful disease. It really is.
Well, I have to ask you one final question, because everybody is going to want to know, if not everyone has the ability to be like you and be an entrepreneur and make the kind of money you've made, but people are trying to make a little money. A lot of people have suffered in the economy. If they're investing now, what would you counsel them? Are there particular investments you would tell them would be good? What's a safe place for their money that will have a bit of growth?
If they're just investing, I actually would invest outside of Canada now and look in large cap companies in countries like Brazil, India, and China that are paying dividends, because they're growing a lot faster. They just are. They have the rising tide of GDP growth that we don't have anymore. So, you know, if you're an investor, you need to get some of your portfolio into these growth countries. And you can do it through ETFs, but unfortunately they don't have any yield, so I don't do it that way. I actually buy the companies. own their stocks, their bonds, their converts, their preference shares, and get the dividend yield, and I get the growth. That's what I'm doing. But, you know, entrepreneurship is something that will always be around, and some percentage of entrepreneurs will be very successful. And I think any way I can help, I try and do it through Dragon's Den and Shark Tank, but I just love being part of that process.
It's the art of the deal, right?
That's right.
Thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure to meet you.
I've enjoyed it very much. Thank you.
Thank you.